And thanks for joining us here on Indivisible. I'm your host, John Stubbins. We are thrilled to have you with us, America. As you know, this is the show we put God, family, and country first, and we will always tell you the truth because that is what matters. We've got a fantastic guest tonight, and I'm really excited about it. Before we get there, we're going to just go quickly. I want to share with you our new coffee line and our affiliate, General Flynn. We're really excited about this. Make sure that you go to johnstubbins.com and you can try any of our 3 blends. They are fantastic. And for the coffee snob out there like me, I think you're really going to enjoy it. Here's a shot of General Flynn with John Ferguson, my other partner. By the way, folks, we are 100% veteran-owned and ran. So buy your coffee from us. It's better than Starbucks. Stop giving to these woke companies. Please, I'm begging you. Just stop doing it because you're just helping their causes and you're not helping ours and you're not helping save the country. So just do us a favor and get your coffee from us. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with Savannah Chrisley. Indivisible with John Stubbins is proud to support my friends Jim and Angela Holland and Set Apart Farms.
Faith-led and family-driven, we're doing things a better way for veterans and their families. For all the ways to get involved, go to setapartfarms.org.
Here's to the overlooked, the overworked, the underappreciated. Here's to the fighters to preserve our freedom, our liberty, our rights, our faith. Here's to the workers, the farmers, the first responders, and those who serve so bravely in our military. Here's to Americans who proudly hold tight to our values: God, privacy, freedom of speech, life and liberty. Here's to the patriots who love this country and everything it stands for, who should never be canceled for believing in America and the blessings of liberty. Finally, there's a bank for you, Old Glory Bank, named after the flag that represents the fabric of this great country and the people of Old Glory Nation, the engine of America. Now you have a bank that values your values. Now you have a bank that stands with you, no matter where you stand. Old Glory Bank. We stand with you.
Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
And we're back. I'm going to invite onto the show now my guest, Savannah Chrisley. Savannah, I'm sure you guys know her from television. Chrisley Knows Best, Growing Up Chrisley, which you guys did for quite a while, right, Savannah?
Yes, for 10 years, which was a wild run.
What was that show like? Either one of them?
It was great. I got to work with my family every single day, and that's not something that I take lightly. It was such a blessing to be able to be with them every single day because obviously now I'm without them. So I look back and I'm grateful for it.
What kind of stuff did you guys do on the show? Was it kind of like was it like covering your everyday lives, or what was it?
Yeah, it was more so a comedy, honestly. It was all about our family, my parents' parenting styles. Then obviously as we got older, we went off, did our own things. And it was just a good family-friendly show.
Well, that's great. That's great. Not everybody has their own show, so we have to at least ask, right?
Exactly.
So look, you've got an amazing story, and I want to dig right into it because when we spoke the other day, I took a lot of notes, and because I have so many notes, there's no way I could cover every single point. So, let's talk about, and I'm just going to let you kind of have at it. so the audience who doesn't know you, who doesn't know your family, can understand your story and your mom and your dad and what they're going through, what the family's going through, the pain that it's brought you guys, the consequences, what you're dealing with now, where you're going with the case. I'm just going to let you have at it, Savannah.
For sure. Yeah, I think, our story is it's interesting to say the least. Back in, I would say 2012, my parents were under investigation with the Georgia Department of Revenue. It was a state tax case for tax fraud. And they ended up settling the case for, I think it was $60,000, something very minimal. There was no tax evasion that was happening. And then once the show got started, the feds ended up investigating them. And the state of Georgia was working with the feds, and it just became a cesspool of corruption at that point. And if it wasn't for us being on TV, this would have never been a case, because everyone in Fulton County, Georgia wouldn't have had a reason to make a name for themselves. And in 2019, they were a formal indictment did come down. So 7 years after the investigation started, a federal indictment came down. And I like to say, if the case was that strong, it wouldn't have taken 7 years to issue an indictment. So it was definitely interesting. And Georgia Department of Revenue, everyone there was so corrupt. There was an OIG investigation that happened due to our case. And when that occurred, they uncovered that Josh Waits, who worked at the Georgia Department of Revenue, had committed multiple crimes when it came to stealing funds from taxpayers, using it to purchase gym equipment, cars, vacations, you name it. And then Josh Waits, obviously in our case, had huge Fourth Amendment violations. He actually went in and illegally seized a warehouse that he says all of this evidence came from, that was used at trial. And as you know, you cannot do that. You have to go through the proper channels and have a search warrant signed off on by a judge. He did not have that. And a magistrate judge ruled in our favor that none of that was allowed in at trial because it was obtained illegally. We don't know if it actually came from the warehouse, if it was planted, if it was manufactured. No one knew. And then when we got to trial in Fulton County with the youngest Black female judge appointed by Obama, she ruled that all of that evidence was allowed in. So we knew it from that point going forward that this was not going to turn out in our favor. The government also went after my mother because my dad would not enter into a plea deal. And that's what they do. They will go after family members to get you to fold. And my parents never did it because they said, we know what we're guilty of and we know what we're not. And at that point, we went to trial, and both my parents got a combined 19 years in federal prison. So my dad, 12 years, and my mom, 7, for what they allege is $17 million worth of fraud.
That is what they do, Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
That is what they do all day, every day. And they do that because there's never any consequences for their behavior.
No.
As soon as you start holding them accountable and you start prosecuting, and even better yet, better still, just wiping the slate clean and getting rid of these organizations that attack specifically conservatives, Christians, veterans, law enforcement. You see the damage that they brought down, especially in these woke cities across America. And you see what, I mean, look at what Atlanta has become.
Yeah, that Atlanta,
Really?
I grew up in Atlanta, and I hate to say that I have, because Atlanta, everything that's gone on with Fani Willis and just the U.S. Attorney's Office there is so corrupt. We had alleged Major Brady violations against the prosecutors, and the judge said, how dare you accuse federal prosecutors of such misconduct? And when that happened, they moved him, they took him out of the U.S. Attorney's Office, and now I believe he's working at the FDIC. And as a lawyer, you don't go and work at the FDIC because you want to. That's where you go for your career to die.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, like
That's
you
right.
you want to go off to private practice. This was our case was the biggest case of his career. He could have used our case to go off, work in private practice, and make a very good living for himself. But the government moved him so they didn't have to answer for his misconduct.
Yeah, and he had Fourth Amendment violations as well, right?
So the prosecutor and the investigator, two different people. Josh Waits was the investigator who had my father's face on a dartboard in his office. We uncovered text messages to where he was taking photos on furniture, mimicking that he was like my father. In the OIG report, they state that this was a very odd thing for him to do. It was also, my father didn't really get the right to a fair trial because of Josh Waits and all of his illegal misconduct. So it just goes to show that they do whatever they want to do. And unfortunately, they have unlimited power, and rarely do they ever have to answer for, their actions.
Well, it doesn't surprise me in a city where Stacey Abrams' sister is sitting as a judge.
They're all in bed together.
They're all in bed together. Exactly. Warnock, all of them. And it just kills me. And I follow what happens in Atlanta. I have family in Buckhead.
Okay.
And so, I'm not down there all the time, but I am in Buckhead periodically. And so, and my relatives down there are 100% conservative and Trump backers. And, it got to the point where Buckhead, just with the criminality, has decided to try to secede from Atlanta. I'm sure you know all about that.
Oh, yeah. Their own police station, everything.
The same thing is going on right now in Louisiana. If you've been following Baton Rouge, where they broke off from Baton Rouge, have a brand new city, their own schools, police, hospitals, everything, because they were tired of the corruption by the woke left.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Let me ask you this. I know that the amount that your dad was being held for, your mom being held for, that amount has changed. It went from 36 million down to 17 million.
Yeah, that's government math for you.
Right. How did that happen again?
So they obviously indicted them on $36 million worth of fraud, which they love to put out to the public. That was kind of their headline. Reality TV stars, charged with $36 million worth of fraud. That was not accurate. Right now, obviously the circuits are split with intended loss versus actual loss. And the alleged crimes that the government refers to happened back 2008 and before. And so they went back a few days before statute of limitations were to expire. And that's when they charged them. And a lot of those banks went under. So they didn't have loan documents from these banks. All they had was my dad's former business partner's word that these things occurred, whom got full immunity from the government. And we were at trial, and the government went from 36 million down to 17 million within hours. And that just goes to show that they don't know what they're talking about. They just want something to stick. And then on appeal, the appellate court ruled that my mother, they couldn't find any evidence used to convict her in a certain amount of fraud. If they could find anything, it would be closer to a $4.7 million loan amount. But also what they didn't go into at trial is how much money was actually, first off, he filed for bankruptcy. So all of this was discharged.
Right.
And just like anyone else in 2008, the world was on fire. Everyone was throwing their loans back at banks that no one could afford to live.
Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all of them, right?
Exactly. And my father had contracts with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. So the world, like I said, was on fire. Everyone was struggling. And like any other developer real estate, really entrepreneur, he went under. He couldn't afford to live. He had no choice but to file bankruptcy. He went through bankruptcy court. There was never any allegations of bankruptcy fraud. It was eventually discharged. And so when you look at all of these things and then you go to trial and you see that they don't even have a bank loan, they also didn't go into the fact that these loans were collateralized by either other homes, furniture, items. So when you default on those loans, it's already collateralized by something else of value. So the banks are getting their money back. And that's been our argument the whole time with them, is how much money are you saying was actually lost? Because first off, he filed for bankruptcy, so that got rid of it. But it's an absolute disaster, and the IRS definitely has an extreme amount of overreach, and they have too much. They just have too much power.
They do, and it has to be taken away. And we'll get to that in the next segment. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with Savannah Chrisley.
Hunter Nation is the ultimate we the people in the conservation community, holding our elected employees accountable to the hunting, fishing, trapping, freedom lifestyle that has brought wildlife back to the healthiest and most thriving condition in our lifetime. HunterNation.org is the epicenter for freedom and wildlife conservation in America. I am Hunter Nation.
And we're back. Savannah, there's an FBI agent here involved. I was just looking over my notes here. Didn't authenticate any of the emails that were made up as evidence. Mark Braddock, is that right?
Yeah, so Mark Braddock is my dad's former business partner who got full immunity from the government. My dad had actually pressed charges against him, I would say, back during this time, for stealing millions of dollars from the company. And when my father did this, Mark obviously had to cover his own tail, and he ended up going to the feds, trying to get them to prosecute my father. And then once the show took off, the feds circled back around to him, gave him full blanket immunity, which never happens in what they're alleging to be $36 million worth of fraud. You know, they may come to you and say, hey, you work with us, we'll give you a lighter sentence, we'll do X, Y, and Z. But no, they said you will not be convicted or tried for any crimes you admit to us.
That's crazy.
And yeah, it was absolutely insane. So he got on the stand and said, I forged their signatures to documents. I was in their emails. I was in their servers. He had a laptop in the basement of our home recording every single phone conversation. This man was a genius. Unfortunately, he had a degree in technology and logistics, so he knew exactly what to do and how to do it. And so Mark Braddock gave the government all this so-called evidence. And when the FBI agent was on the stand, our lawyers questioned him and said, what steps did you take to authenticate this evidence? And the FBI agent looked at him and was like, what are you asking me? And our lawyer said, you've got Quantico at your fingertips. What steps have you taken to authenticate that these emails are exactly what you say they are, and they came from my client, and that they haven't been altered, they haven't been tampered with, and they haven't been made up? And the FBI agent proceeded to say, I haven't. So the reason that the FBI did not have any of this evidence authenticated is because they knew it wasn't going to tell the story that they needed to be told.
No narrative that matches their narrative.
Exactly.
At the time of the trial, all the taxes were paid, right?
Yes. At time of trial, all the taxes were paid. There was actually $500,000 sitting in an account at the IRS that had just never been credited to my parents' Social Security numbers.
That's just, how much are we talking about here?
I mean, they have paid millions of dollars in taxes. I know that for myself. Even when they left for prison, I sold their personal home. And I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Nashville, Tennessee. I
Right.
do that as a living. I have multiple jobs. And I went to sell their home, and the government, the IRS, everyone stepped in and tried to take my 3% commission. And this is not a for sale by owner situation. I'm a single
Oh.
mother now trying to provide. And I had to get lawyers involved to actually fight the government for my commission.
Wow.
And I had to end up settling with the government. I had to give them a percentage of my commission for them to sign off on the sale of the home. And they threatened me and said that if I did not agree to their terms, then they would force the sale of this home through certain laws. And I had no choice but to obviously, go back and forth and settle with them. And that's a huge thing. And when that home sold, that went to pay 2023 taxes. So that's where, at time of trial, taxes had been paid. All the taxes had been paid. And for a certain period of time, obviously he was in bankruptcy, so everything's put on hold. But through this whole experience, it's taught me so much, especially within the IRS. And that's why now I'm working with Senator Rand Paul. His office reached out to me about the FAIR Act that he's put into place. And this is to protect against civil asset forfeiture laws and to protect our citizens from your assets being seized. In our case, before my parents were ever even convicted, the government went and seized a warehouse that had $3 million worth of goods in it. And they
And
were
destroyed it.
Yes, and destroyed all of those items. And now we're out $3 million worth of goods. So it should really scare the American people that it can happen to anyone. And when the government wants you, they want you, and they'll do whatever they have to do in order to get what they want.
Absolutely. And people know that watch this show. We're by the way, we're as heavily censored as it gets because we do investigative work through this show, rooting out corruption all through government. And
yes,
believe me, they don't like me very much, Savannah.
Hey, they don't like me either, because now since being in the system and the Bureau of Prisons, I have made it my mission to absolutely dismantle them and everything that they stand for, because it's filled with nothing but corruption, abuse, government theft, you name it. I have come out about the conditions in these prisons, and the Bureau of Prisons has then proceeded to call me a liar. And they learned to maybe not use that term, because I came out on either Fox, News Nation, one of these news outlets, and I stated I would be very careful whom I call a liar when I'm sitting on the documentation, environmental reports, photos.
Right.
I've got
that. I've
done the investigating.
It's called evidence, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and look, it's amazing because, and I love how God works, because he designs the plan and the road work and how we get there. It was fascinating that I ran into you in Wisconsin, having never met you before, and then after hearing about your story, and it's Quantico, we need to come together and work together, because there's a lot of things that I can see we're simpatico on. But look, if it isn't people like us behind the scenes getting the job done,
yes,
then the American people are just going to continue to suffer, because no one is fighting for them out here.
And that's the thing, is you don't realize until it happens to you, unfortunately, how it truly does affect people. And now, thank goodness for CPAC and the Schlapp family. They brought me on board to be a fellow advisor for criminal justice reform. And during that process, I have seen just the miscarriage of injustices, and just seeing, it's so heartbreaking to see how these men and women are treated who are incarcerated, and these family members that either just don't have the resources or don't have the reach that I have, that are reaching out to me begging for help.
Well, see, and that's the key. And thank God for Matt and Mercedes. We just had them on the show about a month ago. But that's exactly right, Savannah. People don't understand. I'm a veteran. Okay, I'm a military veteran, a proud military veteran, and we work with Ted Nugent and Keith Mark and Don Jr. over at Hunter Nation and the Hunt Channel. We had to move. I mean, think about this. It got so bad with the censorship, the shadow banning, everything they were doing to demonetize us, that we had to move our show to Hunter Nation. Think about that.
Yeah.
Right? And we still have our loyal following, but we had to move our whole apparatus because they wanted to shut us down. And the reason they wanted to shut us down is because we're always over the target.
Yeah.
Always. And we don't lie to our listeners. When I go out in public, I want to be able to walk up to somebody and hold my head high, knowing that we tell the truth.
Yeah.
And we stand by that.
Yeah.
And that means something. So
without a doubt.
And look, the other part of this is that you mentioned it. You hit the nail on the head. Not everybody out there, when they get destroyed by the government, most people can't recover from that.
No.
Your family's, even though your mom and dad are still in jail, you're fighting. You've recovered to a certain extent.
Well, I could have laid down and taken what came to me. And
Same here.
That's not who I am. I am a fighter, and it's been a struggle every single day to now be a parent to 2 children and to fight for justice while trying to put a roof over their head and provide.
Kudos to you for that.
Thank you. It's a very challenging thing, but also I go by the saying, when you know better, you do better. And I have seen it's heartbreaking to see how corrupt our government is and the amount of families that they destroy. So if my story can save one family, then it makes it all worth it.
Well, the key, like I said, the key is people of our ilk coming together to fight, because we can do so much better when we band together with our resources, our strength, our knowledge, our contacts. So, and by the way, again, kudos for what you're doing for those 2 kids. Because believe me, they need you, and we need you. We need you to keep fighting. I look forward to working with you.
I'm excited.
I am excited, and just keep fighting. Keep your head up. Obviously, we're going to have you back to talk about any updates that are coming along. I'm going to be getting with Matt and Mercedes very soon about what we're going to do for the program at CPAC. I'm hoping to do something big over there with you guys. So I'm real excited. But look, you're I'll put it to you this way. I have a little club called the Smash Mouth Brawlers. It's an old football deal, okay? But you're a Smash Mouth Brawler, a scrapper.
I'll take it.
I love it. Folks, we've been scrolling Savannah's info at the bottom of the screen the whole show. You can reach her on X _ it's Savannah _ YouTube, her show Unlocked with Savannah, and obviously on Instagram at Savannah Chrisley. Savannah, it's been great having you, my friend.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch with you on these investigations. Sure. Let's hook up.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
You
We're going to
too.
take a quick commercial break. And when we get back, we'll talk about the next battle. We'll be right back, folks. We've tried so many of Mike's products at MyPillow. Whether it's the Giza Dream Sheets, the MyPillow mattress topper, or whether it's the MyPillow towel sets. Me and my family here at Indivisible, we've tried all of Mike's great products, and we just love them. My mom loves her robe. Mark loves the big dog bed for Shakespeare. And my favorite, the moccasins, which are really great for my feet. Save up to 66% off for MyPillow products for you and your family. Go to MyPillow.com and enter the promo code INDIVISIBLE for my show. Or call 1-800-716-4639 and give them the promo code INDIVISIBLE for my show. You're going to love it. Great show tonight, folks. We're running over just a few minutes or by a minute or so. God bless you. God bless your families. And God bless America. We will see you